What's going on, everybody? Got a quick and easy video for today on building an automatic lead magnet generator using make.com. This was another request that was sent to me about a month and a half to 2 months ago. I've been taking my sweet time with this one because I wanted to make sure that I got it right and that the system that I developed was simple enough that 99% of the people watching could probably do it within an hour, but also complicated enough, I suppose, that it offered enough value to actually be used in like a sales flow in real life. So if that sounds like something you guys want to learn how to do for yourselves, stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, this idea was sent to me by Nico.m527. Essentially, he was asking for some sort of lead gen agency automation flow. For example, for cold emailing, it'd be amazing if we could automate lead magnets. A prospect could fill out a form and we use AI to write some cold email scripts for them specific to their company and then send them in a Google Doc. It doesn't have to be this, but automating a sales asset we could use to grow our pipeline would be insanely valuable. And I agree. I mean, I sort of do this. If you guys have seen my generator proposal video, that's basically a very similar flow. But, a lot of people don't have access to PandaDoc, and a lot of people don't have access to a few of the swankier sort of tools that I like to use. So I thought that I'd create a flow that generates a pretty good quality lead magnet just upon a prospect filling out a form. Maybe you're in the middle of a cold email sequence and your big offer is, hey, let me create a lead magnet for you for free. All you need to do is fill out this form, and then it'll automatically draft the lead magnet. Maybe you have some human Q&A or something like that at the very end before you send it back to them. But generally speaking, this is just like another way to, up the ante of your sales game. You're providing some asset for free. I did a lot of this with 1 Second Copy when I first started. What we were doing is obviously using AI to pre-draft articles. But we would offer a free 500-word sample article on a topic of their choosing, and then all they had to do was fill out a little form with 3 or 4 bits of information, like the keyword, the topic, any example articles, that sort of thing. And then AI would actually get like 70 to 80% of the way there. We'd send it to an editor to do a quick 5-minute touch-up, and the internal cost of us being able to offer this on the front end, very good-looking offer, was like, $3 or $4. So made perfect sense for us. I figured this might make good sense for you too. So how do we actually proceed with this? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to keep this as simple as humanly possible. And so what I've done is I basically went and I Googled Google Slides templates. The first hit that I got was this website called slidesgo.com. Then I just scrolled down until I found something that I thought looked pretty reasonable, which was this one right here. Gave a little click, and then I pressed download this template, Google Slides. What this is doing is it's now just copying this template over to my account. And this is going to be one of the templates that you would use, or in my case, I'm going to use to build this flow out. Now, what I would recommend you guys do, if you guys wanted to build out like a real dedicated solution, is create 4 or 5 templates and then create your own variables inside of the templates, like I'll show you in a second, and then use either like a random function or iterate through them like round robin style so that you're not just using the same template over and over and over again. If somebody happens to generate something more than once, they get something different, and it looks a little higher quality that way. But yeah, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this template to sort of, guide our way through this process. So I'm just going to make a copy on the account that I know has access to Google Slides inside of make.com. So we're just going to go interactive and animated social media strategy. And what I'm going to do next is just delete a bunch of those slides that I don't really think matter, or that would just be a little bit too difficult to like template with AI. So this is a title page. I'm imagining we would probably swap the title out for some AI generated title that would seem very customized to the prospect. So I'm going to leave that there. There's like a subheading down there. That's nice. This is, just a instructional guide on how to use the template. So I'll delete that. This is a table of contents. I'm going to use this. That seems pretty interesting. So let's give it a try. This looks pretty interesting too. Let's delete these sorts of pages and then let's leave sort of like the content pages. And then for the purpose of demonstration, I'm just going to delete all the other pages. We'll just use this as this is the last page here. Oops, there we go. And why don't we just pretend there's like some call to action. We'll say get started today. And then maybe, we'll just link my website for the purposes of the demonstration. And let's say the whole idea here is that we are selling to, digital marketing audiences, I suppose. So maybe they run a digital marketing agency and we're going to ask them like, like what do you want your lead magnet to be about or something. And then because these images are sort of quasi, people are on their phones, it's something to do with social media, digital marketing, that sort of thing, they'll probably work. So we don't even need to really edit the images. Okay, great. So now that I have my Google Slides template set up, what am I going to do next? Well, it's quite simple and quite straightforward. Essentially, I'm going to go over to Make, and then I'm just going to test an MVP of generating, just a Google slide using this presentation very easily. And so I've set up a scenario here called new request form entry, generate lead magnet and email to prospect. And I'm going to hook this up to Typeform, and I'm going to hook this up to like the rest of the flow in a second. But all I really want to do at the very beginning is just verify that I can generate the templated feature that I want to generate. So really quick and easy hack for you. And one of the reasons why I love Google Slides and how it interacts with Make so much, it's just so easy to get started with this stuff. I built proposals, I built like whole presentations in seconds using AI. They have a built-in feature in Make that allows you to replace any variable that has two curly brackets. So if, for instance, I were just to go title like this, then maybe down here I'd go subheading. And then if I were to go to make.com, choose slides, and then create a presentation from a template, that's right down here. What I could do then is just add an example title. And then I'm going to choose a specific presentation here called interactive and animated, whatever. There you go, that's this one. And then you'll see, because we put in these two curly brackets here, if I go back, there's like a curly left bracket and then two curly right brackets. They've actually pulled the variables for us, and we can just put them in however we want. So I'm just going to go interactive and animated social media strategy. Welcome to our awesome lead magnet. And then for now, I'm just going to store this in my root. And then I'm just going to give this a quick run. This will show you guys what this looks like at the end. It's going to take a little bit of time just because there's some heavy assets. But anyway, we now have the presentation stored. And instead of me going through the process of generating a link, I know that this ID is tied to the presentation. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to replace this section here after the /D with the presentation ID. And this is going to jump me to that. Awesome. And you see now this is the actual presentation that I generated. The title was Interactive and Animated Social Media Strategy, and then it says Welcome to our awesome lead magnet. So all I did there was I basically just verified that, we can do probably the most important part of the flow. I started at the end, and I'm just going to work my way backwards from the end to, the stuff that I actually care about. So probably the most difficult part of this, if I'm just being honest, is going to be the AI prompting. If you think about it, AI is not really going to be able to generate this whole thing in one fell swoop. Like, we can't just have it generate a bunch of text and then use one variable and then populate it all. We're going to need to use multiple variables. And then we're also going to have to be cognizant of the fact that if you look closely, like, there are different text lengths here. If this were goals and objectives and a bunch of other stuff, this would look pretty crappy, right? So we need to make sure that, they're approximately the same lengths. Like target audience demographics, if we have a table of contents and we're generating 6 pages, and then instead of target audience demographics, this has like 40 words in it or something, this would obviously spill over and just ruin our whole design. So I guess from a professionalism perspective, and also just making sure that, this is cohesive and this all makes sense and this is readable, we need to be a little more precise in how we're going to prompt it. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. What we're probably going to do is we're just going to use variables to replace all of these sections. And we're going to populate them all manually. And then I'm probably going to have to, now that I'm thinking about it, train it and give it like 3 or 4 examples of what I want it to look like. So it may be a little bit involved, but that's okay. This is sort of work that we'll do once, and then AI will just do it forever after that. And then just thinking off the top of my head, that's about it. I mean, you could throw in a bunch of extra functionality here. You could have it like pull images from one of the various image APIs out there to customize the images, or you could have it generate a color palette and then, like modify the colors. But to be honest, I think that goes a little too far. And I think that most people that want to be able to generate lead magnets like this, they don't really care about that. As I mentioned, you could create 3 or 4 templates and just cycle through it. So without further ado, let's get into the AI training side of things. I'm going to go to OpenAI. Then we're going to create a completion. And as I mentioned, we're working backwards. So now we're going to start at OpenAI, and then we're going to go to the Google Slides template. Okay, we're going to create a chat completion. I've just been using the GPT-4-Turbo. It's not the highest quality, but it's very simple and easy to get up and running with. And as always, I will have the model self-identify by saying something like, "You are a helpful, intelligent writing assistant." Most of the time, I'm getting it to do writing, so that makes sense. I always follow a system, user, user assistant, user assistant, user assistant pattern, if you guys have seen my previous videos. Essentially, the system is what the model identifies as. The user is the instructions that you are providing to the model to get it to do something. And then afterwards, you just do a bunch of user assistant pairs, which are examples that you provide, and then the example output from the model. This is how you sort of guide it in a specific direction. These are the guardrails that you put down. So what I'm going to need to do here first is I'm going to need to provide it some instructions. I'm going to say, using the following input, generate a high quality, let's do, I don't want to say lead magnet because it might not understand lead magnet. Okay, we'll try lead magnet. We're going to say JSON. Then over here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to interact with it in JSON. So I'm going to send it JSON, and then I'm going to train it to send me back JSON. And then we're just going to go back and forth, and that's how it's going to work. Now, obviously, the contents of the prompt that I'm going to be providing it depends on the form that we're going to set up, so I'm not going to worry too much about it right now. I'm just going to sort of scaffold the stuff, and then after I've scaffolded the variables in the slide deck, or sorry, in the Google Slide lead magnet that I'm interested in, then I'll go back and then we can create the form as well. But I think I'm probably going to need 2 examples here. So we're going to do 2 user assistant pairs, and then at the end, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have like the real data, essentially, that is provided from the form. So as I mentioned, this is the system, user, user assistant, and then user pattern. This is basically called 2-shot learning in, kind of like ML speak. And then max token count, I'm just going to choose something long. I don't really care too much about that. Advanced settings, I always like to choose 0.7 for the temperature. I just find the quality is a little bit better. And I don't need the frequency penalty, presence penalty. I don't need any of that stuff. They keep on adding more parameters here, but I haven't really found any of them hyper relevant in the last little bit. So that's that. Okay, great. So now that we have all of that scaffolded, what I want to do next is I want to actually figure out the variables that I'm going to need to have OpenAI generate for us. And so obviously title is going to have to be one of the variables. Subheading is going to have to be another one of the variables. We'll leave table of contents as is, but why don't we do section 1 heading like this. And why don't we do section 2 heading? We'll do section 3 heading, section 4 heading, section 5 heading. And I think there's 6 sections here, but I just need to make sure because I deleted a bunch of pages, right? So let's say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? There isn't 6. So why don't we just remove this? Then why don't we use our lovely design skills to try and center this puppy? Oof, that's rough, man. Okay, so all of our lead magnets are going to be exactly 5 pages because we're templating the hell out of them. I like the bolded text. And then I'll have this also be section 1 heading. So the idea is this is going to be the table of contents for the document. This is also just going to like add us an additional page, fluff up our lead magnet a little bit, make it seem a little more valuable. And then whatever the section 1 heading is in the table of contents is obviously going to be the heading of the next section 1 part, right? So that part makes sense. And then we'll probably generate like a paragraph. So I might say section 1 paragraph, and then maybe we'll just do like 2 bullet points. So section 1 bullet point 1, section 1 bullet point 2. I should probably come up with an acronym now that I'm thinking about it, simply because if I were to do a paragraph here and then bullet point 1, bullet point 2, like the JSON itself is going to be pretty long. That's going to be a fair number of tokens. So there's probably a more effective way to figure that out. But anyway, so we'll do section 1 heading, and then you know what I should do before I go any further here? I'm just going to make a copy again, just so that I could see what the paragraph lengths are. You know, what I mentioned earlier was that it's very important that the length of these sections isn't like super crazy long or short. They're pretty similar to what was on the template. So obviously I just need like a source document that I can look at. And that source document's going to be right over here. Okay, we'll call this section 1 paragraph. We'll call this section 1 bullet 1. We'll call this section 1 bullet 2. And then let's just not do a bullet 3. That looks pretty nice. Here we'll go section 2 heading. We'll go section 2 subheading 1. Go section 2 subheading 2. We'll go section 2 paragraph 1. I'm just following, roughly anyway, some format for this. Just that it's a little bit easier and maybe more maintainable when somebody reads it later. Section 3 heading is going to be over here. This is going to be section 3 subheading 1. It's going to be 2. Don't worry too much that the text is kind of being pushed all over the place. That part's not super important. We're going to be able to control that by training it later. So we're going to say section 3 paragraph 1, section 3 paragraph 2, section 3 paragraph 3. It'll also make it a lot easier to see the blueprint and kind of see how that works, now that I think about it. One of the really cool things that I'm excited to create a community for is it'll allow me to very easily put up all of these assets. Like one thing that I've missed in previous videos is I'll put up the blueprint, but then the blueprint will be consulting some Pandadoc or something like that. And it's sort of like meaningless. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably open up like a school community or something like that. And then I'm pretty sure they have, oh, I guess this is heading, subheading 1. They had built-in support for, like uploading various files and that sort of thing. So that way I'll basically be able to just have like a big compendium of, I don't know, proposal documents and lead magnet documents and all the sorts of things that people have been asking me for. So that's going to be pretty cool. Okay, this is going to be section 4, paragraph 1. As you see, a lot of this is extremely boring and very monotonous. But rest easy, you know that you are only doing it once. Whew, now we got to do 6. Brutal. I'm just going to copy this from before, paste this here. Call this 5. Going to do section 5, subheading 1. We'll do section 5, subheading 2. We'll go section 5, subheading 3. This is going to be 4. This is going to be 5. And this is going to be 6. Awesome. Now we're just going to wrap this up with the paragraphs. Oh, I just realized that that needs to be 5, doesn't it? Now, one other thing that I should mention, just when you're doing this on your own, is that Google Slides has the annoying habit of generating a bunch of extra lines. And so just make sure that you don't have any extra new lines at the bottom of these paragraphs, because the new lines are going to push text down and stuff. So you had an extra new line there, extra new line there. Probably same with this. No, didn't have anything there. Probably have an extra new line here. Yeah, that's why the text was all high. So we'll do this. Just make sure that everything here is hunky-dory, looking good. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so this is going to be our template. And now all we have to do, that we've basically created, like 30 variables or something like that, is we have to have AI generate those variables. The simplest way for us to do that is, as I mentioned earlier, using JSON. So if I go back here, notice how, I just sort of like templated it out like this. What we can do instead is we basically have to go through and we have to, sorry, not here, down here. We basically have to go through and then we have to have AI generate all of these for us. So let's just, for the purposes of this, yeah, I gotta essentially write all these again. That's annoying. I also can't just copy and paste them because kind of a weird hack and a quirk, and most people won't really care about this, but because there are two curly braces here, and that's makes built-in variable syntax, if you try and copy and paste this in, it'll have like a built-in variable called section1 heading, which obviously doesn't exist, which is why it's returning that black sort of rectangle, which is annoying. But anyway, yeah, great. So basically what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to turn all of these variables here into JSON format. And just because I don't want this video to be like 3 hours of me just monotonously copying and pasting headings and that sort of thing, I'm just going to cut this in post. And then in a few seconds, we'll be right back to developing. Okay, I had to do some fancy prompt engineering off screen there just because I realized that I was essentially generating an essay every single time, which is pretty long. And in order to really make sure that the quality of the content is good enough, it required a fair amount of tweaking. But anywho, assuming that you have, 20 or 30 minutes to spend to generating this amazing, super high value lead magnet creator, this is essentially what I did. First and foremost, I made a couple of changes to the prompt here. I said, ensure the following variables are present every time, and then I included every single one of them, simply because I noticed that the AI had a tendency to omit one or two, and if it omits one or two, obviously the end result is we just have a big blank space in the template. That's not going to be good. So to get ahead of it, I just thought that I would add this piece of instruction. Stuff like this probably lowers the quality a little bit, just being this explicit with the model, but at the same time, it ensures that we don't miss anything. And then what I've done here is I've essentially picked a very simple data model for the form that I'm going to be connecting in a minute. And it's just going to ask 3 questions. The first is it's going to ask, what's the topic of the lead magnet you want to create? What's a brief summary of the points you want made in the piece? And then what's your company name? Obviously, we're going to ask for their email and stuff because we need to connect it to an email sending module. But these are like the 3 pieces of information that we're actually going to use inside of the template itself. And then I trained it a little bit by adding some in-context learning. I add a bunch of user and assistant pairs. In my case, I did 2, which I think is sufficient for most use cases without also making it very expensive to run, because you do have to keep an eye on token count and that sort of deal. And essentially, the topic was how to price for graphic designers. The summary was, well, basically graphic designers aren't pricing high enough and it's hurting them. I want to talk about strategies for improving that. You can imagine how maybe it's like a digital marketing agency that's creating an offer specifically geared towards helping graphic designers grow their business. This might be a lead magnet for that. And then all I did was I filled in all of those variable or JSON keys that I showed you guys earlier, and wrote a bunch of example content and that sort of deal. And then I did the same thing again for another topic, why cold email isn't dead. Just thinking about the sorts of topics that a digital marketing company would probably be, or its prospects would probably be writing. And then I filled in a bunch of stuff here, same deal. And then all I'm doing now is I'm just providing it one final example so that I can personally test and verify the quality of the output. So what I'm doing is I'm saying YouTube marketing is really effective. Pound for pound, the money you spend on YouTube is anywhere from 5 to 15 times as effective as most other mediums. Companies should be using YouTube not only to market their products, but to market their people. And then my company name is 1 second copy. Now I'm not actually hooking this up to a form yet because again, I want to test this from the back to the front essentially. Now, after we generate this, you'll see that the result is a bunch of JSON, and we can't actually access the JSON in our Google Slides module. So that's a problem. What we need to do is we need to go and select JSON, and then go and grab parse JSON. And what this will do is you'll feed a giant JSON or JavaScript object like this, and then it will process it into a list of variables that you can access through the make variable selector. You know how like when you click on something, you have this little modal that pops up down here on the bottom right-hand corner? I don't know if you guys can see that specific thing, so let me scroll up. We just currently can't access any of these variables without doing like regexes and parsing the hell out of it. So by parsing the JSON, we'll just eliminate that, and it'll be really, really quick and easy roadmap for us to do. And what I'm doing here is I'm just removing a bunch of the unfortunate variables that I did while testing a moment ago. So, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Got a couple more here, and then I believe that's it. Yeah. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a block here. The reason why I'm doing this is because make can be a little bit finicky sometimes. As I mentioned in my course, it's a little bit rough around the edges, and there are some instances in which you will try and run it just so you have access to the variables. But if it's not connected, you won't actually be able to see them in the modal. So this is me just sort of, getting ahead of that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run my example with my YouTube pitch. And then I'm going to parse the JSON. And then after parsing the JSON, we'll get a list of all the variables. And then I'll just be able to map them one for one and add them to the Google Slides module. That's the hope anyway. We'll see how it goes. But keep in mind, we are generating quite a long string of text here. I think it's like 1,000 or 2 or maybe even 2,500 tokens. And because of that, it's going to take a little bit of time. So just make sure you're not sending this like immediately to a prospect. I would personally recommend you guys, like if you're at the point where a prospect is filling out a form, they're obviously interested in the product or service that you have to sell. I would be willing to commit a large amount of time and money to that prospect to make sure the experience they receive is incredible. So I probably wouldn't even send them an AI lead magnet immediately. I would probably send it to a salesperson that's on and just say, hey, quickly take a look at this before we send it. If you have any additions you want to make, then feel free. But yeah, if you think about the cost, let's say you run a campaign, it's cold email or something. If you run a campaign and 1,000 people get back to you, and then only 10 of those people ask you for some type of like follow-up or whatnot, maybe 100 people, then that's still 1 in 10, meaning the value of somebody that asked you for the form or wants to generate a lead magnet is 10 times the value of the people that responded. And then maybe the people that responded are like 100 times the value of just the people that you emailed. And so at every step, the amount of leverage that you should be willing to invest and the amount of time and energy and resources you should be willing to essentially provide in order to close the client should naturally go up. Just makes sense, right? Okay, I think this is pretty good. I feel like we're missing like one variable here. I think section 5, paragraph 6, honestly. Or section 4, paragraph 4, possibly. I don't know. But we'll see. Let's just remove this filter. Then let's just go through and map all of these. So title, subheading, section 1 heading, section 2 heading, section 3 heading. We'll do 4 and then 5. We'll go section 1 paragraph, bullet 1, bullet 2, and then we'll go paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and then we'll go subheading 1, subheading 2. Now we're into paragraph 3, so we'll go paragraph 1, 2. Yeah, I think we only generated 2 subheadings. I don't know, this is sort of all over the place simply because it takes into account the y-axis and then it sees where all these variables are down to like the pixel, and then it just sorts them based off their vertical position, from my understanding anyway. So what do we do now? Section 3, subheading 1, section 3, subheading 2, section 3, paragraph 3 now, section 3, subheading 3, section 4, paragraph 1, oh boy. Then we have subheading 1, which is here, and then we have paragraph 3, subheading 3, paragraph 2, subheading 2. I'm going to have to double check this after, make sure that I'm not making a complete ass of myself right now. But I think all these variables are right, just off the top of my head. Section 4, paragraph 4, that looks empty. I don't think we have a section 4, paragraph 4. Yeah, no, we don't. We don't have a subheading either, so we'll just move on to section 5. That's okay that we don't have a subheading. It's not a very big deal. Let's just call this section 5, and then we can just index all of these. So we did paragraph 1. We'll have to do subheading 1 now. Paragraph 3. Subheading 3. Paragraph 2. Subheading 2. Paragraph 4. Subheading 4. Paragraph 5. Subheading 5. Looks like we're missing paragraph 6, subheading 6, and then we're also missing these two here. Section 4, paragraph 4, section 4, subheading 4. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to go 6.section 4, paragraph 4, paste that in, and then I'll also do subheading 4. And what this is doing is this is just mapping those variables. So even if the variables aren't currently accessible, it allows us to access them because we're just using makes like built-in syntax for this stuff. This is going to be subheading 6. Okay, so every variable should now be filled in, which is nice. I click OK there, verify that it's all in. And then I'm just going to very quickly just double check why we didn't generate, what was it, section 5, subheading 6, Just want to make sure that I included this. Yeah, okay, so this wasn't in the instructions actually. So we'll do 6. Oh, that's sort of annoying. Whatever. Oh, you know what, I guess I have to change all of these numbers. Okay, I'm just going to have AI remove all of the numbers here after I'm done. What was the other thing that I needed to take out? I don't remember. Let's go back here and see. For paragraph 4. Okay, let's just see if maybe I forgot for paragraph 4. No, we got for paragraph 4 in here. We got for subheading 4, so odd that it didn't generate. Probably because I'm using the cheaper model, GPT-4 Turbo. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go over to my own little chat GPT, and then I'm just going to say, remove the numbers and put this all on one line. This is going to help us remove a couple of tokens, because I believe every new line is considered a new token, and that's like, what, 40 tokens right there? And then we're also not going to have to like rewrite all those numbers, which is annoying. So yeah, just pasted all these variables in there. That should be good. And then I'm just going to try doing this with the smarter model. GPT-4 Turbo isn't as smart, unfortunately. And we're just going to see if maybe the quality is a little bit better. And then, yeah, we have all the variables present, so this should be good. Let's give it a go. Now, I should mention that GPT-4 is even slower than GPT-4 Turbo. GPT-4 is like a generation before the Turbo models. But I always find it funny because people seem to think that, you know, the next generations are always better, at least when it comes to AI. And my response to that is no, not really. Unfortunately, if you think about it, you know, the models require a massive amount of infrastructure in order to run successfully. We're talking like data centers. I mean, at this point, probably the size of small cities, if you like take all the cloud compute and like stick it all in one big factory. And so OpenAI and these other compute providers, you know, they're looking to minimize the demand on their software. And so next generations, like every time they develop a new model, they usually incentivize everybody to switch to it by making it really cheap and making it really fast and making it so convenient. But if you think about it from their perspective, what they do is they actually just dumb it down and they make them a little bit, it's almost like cranking their IQ down 5, 10, or 15 points because then they become faster to run. And then obviously it's cheaper for OpenAI and they're not spending $1 trillion on servers and all that stuff, right? Anywho, okay, let's see what happened. We just got a generation out here, and I'm just reading through, making sure that, you know, we have all the variables that we need. I think we did. Looks like we generated the Google slide. We got the presentation ID over here, so I'm just going to copy and paste this in like I did last time. I'll show you why we had to do that in a second. And this looks pretty good already, honestly. So this looks, yeah, pretty solid. I mean, you know, we have like 4 lines here instead of 3 lines. We could be a little bit more generous with the width of these sections. That would probably help eliminate that issue. So I might be able to go back and then fix that. We could also be more generous with how this is structured. Like, I think we might have a line here or something, or this is pushed down for some reason. So you can imagine how if you pushed like in the template, I don't know, something like this maybe, then even if it was longer or shorter, it would still look good. This looks good. That looks good. That looks good. This looks unfortunate. Yeah, same sort of issue, I would say. We can eliminate this problem by just making this a little bit wider. And then also in the training data, we would have to make this, what is this, section 5 heading or something like that. We'd have to make that a little bit shorter. And then these titles are going to have to, or these, what's the term, subheadings are going to have to be a little bit shorter just because they seem to cut into things a bit. So yeah, that's okay. Why don't we go back here then and then just edit this to be a little bit more forgiving. So let's move this up for 1. Let's make this a little bit longer for 2. And then why don't we also just make this like 28 or something? We'll make this a little bit smaller. And then for these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down. Actually, I think I can probably select multiple and just move them all down at the same time. Oops, nope. We're going to go probably down to here, I would say, maybe a little bit higher. there. I'm going to select these and then move them up. And then I think one of the main problems with the way that this was before was that these headings tended to be going, like they just all went over a little bit. So it probably has less to do with the width and has more to do just with the training data. So I'll edit that. What other problems were there? Let's see. Yeah, these look fine. I think that this should probably be a little bit wider too. There's no need for these sections to be as small, I would say. So let's just widen these, maybe even a little bit more. Stick that over there. Oh, you know what? We should just widen everything. What am I doing? Let's go back to here, and then let's just select all of this. Widen it maybe out to here. There you go. Should be a little bit better. Now, keep in mind, I'm not like a god tier designer, but I like to think that I know my stuff, at least a little. And then I mentioned at the beginning how we were going to want to move this up a bit. And then we're going to move this down a bit just to have a little bit of extra space. All right, I think that's everything that needs to be on the template side. So I'm going to go back to the integration here. And what I'm going to do is just for anything that's section, what was it? 4 or section 5, I'm just going to decrease the length on average of the generated subheading titles. So I'm going to go over here to section 4 subheading. So I'll just say preparation. I'll say presentation. I'll say objections. Then I'll say seal the deal. That'll probably be the longest one. And then I'll say review pricing, upskill / update. We'll say testimonials, relationships. We'll say market changes. And we'll say long-termism. I don't know. It's probably a little better there. And then I just have to do the same here on the other example, because I just wanted to know that for some reason they really want short subheadings. We'll say cost effectiveness, good. And down here it'll be email or content strategy. We'll say optimization. Testing / iteration, customize, stay informed. It's probably shorter, right? I think so, just barely. Test fit. Okay, good. All right, let's give this another run. And let's see how it works now that we've taken a little bit of time and effort just to optimize the template. My expectation is it's going to perform better, but you never know. Might still be a couple of issues. Like one thing that I always mention is that the flexibility of AI is both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness, especially when you try and incorporate into a procedural flow like this. We're trying to generate a product, but we are constrained by the platform that we're using. And so we have fixed like text width of boxes. We have obviously only so much text that we can generate before it spills over the page and starts ruining the design, makes it look unprofessional, that sort of thing. And it'd be really nice if we could just say, generate 19 characters exactly. But AI is a little too flexible, so it'll read it, but it's not really, one, competent enough to understand it. And two, even if it was, some of the outputs have like a randomness feature to it where, even if it understood 19, sometimes it would generate 21, sometimes it would generate 17. And that sort of fuzziness is really like the main point of leverage, right? It's why AI is capable of actually conversing with us in natural language now. But it's also a drawback when you're attempting to design high ROI systems like this. And so you just need to be aware of that, and you need to be able to work against it by giving yourself some tolerances, just like I've done. Okay. Again, that one's 4 lines, but that's okay. This looks much better, so that was fixed. This is fixed. This is on 3 lines, not as good, but not bad. That's on 2, still looking good. Okay, looks a lot better. I would say all we have to do now is change all of the last titles. What's this? This is heading 5, so we just have to change all of heading 5s to make them shorter. And then it looks like I moved some of these down a little bit too much because now there's that weird gap in between, but that's okay. So we're going to remove my ugly gap, make these go up. That should be better. As a whole, I'm then going to make this go down a bit. And then on my training sets, I'm going to change the titles for section 5 heading. We'll say profitability. So I'm just going to do one word for all section 5 headings, and hopefully that'll help. We'll go crafting winning emails. Good. We'll save that and give that one final Hail Mary. Kind of OCD, but I just don't like how that had that extra 2 lines there. Okay. Yeah, should be good. It makes sense because on every one of the examples, section 5 heading was just a little bit too long. So hopefully this will work. Anywho, these small changes here, they're to be expected. And if you are following along what I recommend at the beginning, so instead of just having one template, maybe you make 5, and then you attach a router to the end of this, and then based on the presence of some variable, you kind of choose a different template. You'll probably have to do a little bit more tweaking with every template to ensure that the text generated for one works for the other and that sort of thing. But all of that is, in due course. I think if you were trying to sell this as a service to somebody, I think that it'd be very clear that the product that you're going to be receiving at the end will just differ a little bit every time. Okay, looks like I didn't actually move this down low enough, but c'est la vie. Cool. I mean, we fixed the heading there, and everything else looks good, which is quite nice. And then you'll also notice that we included the brand name. At 1 second copy, we believe in the power of YouTube, not just for marketing products, but also for showcasing your team, blah, blah, blah. Feel free to pause the video and give this a quick read. But, if we go to slideshow mode here, and then this template includes buttons, so you can give this a click basically to animate and that sort of thing. You'll see this is pretty high quality of a slide deck and, a template that we're providing. Get started today, and then you open up left click. All right, awesome. So now that we built out the functionality, what do we do from here? Obviously, I'm going to build out the Typeform. So I'll do 2 things. I'll do Typeform for 1. I'll say watch responses instant acid. That'll be the new beginning. And then this will be the email module at the end. And I'm just going to send this email to the prospect. I'm going to do my fancy 2-step Typeform flow here because I want to be able to maintain this flow later on. So I'm going to first generate the response, and then I'm going to list it, and then I'm going to pull all the variables from the list module here. So I'm going to go to Typeform, and then I believe the account that I'm using for this, oh geez, I don't actually remember. Might be mine. I don't know. We'll find out soon enough. That looks good. Okay, so I'm going to create a new form. We're just going to call this our lead magnet generator. Quick and easy. And then there are 3 questions. What's the topic of your lead magnet? What do you want the topic of your lead magnet to be? Let's do that. We're really curious. No, we're not that curious. We're going to do long text for all of these, and then I'm just going to duplicate and then duplicate. Provide a brief summary of the points you wish made in your piece. Then I'll say, what's your, actually, no, we can do this with a contact field module. So we'll go contact info here. And we're not going to ask for the last name. We're not going to ask for the phone number. We're just going to ask for this. And let's do this at the end. We'll say, what's the best email to send your finished lead magnet to? That looks nice. And then because I am a big whore for black, sexy star backgrounds, I'm going to do this. Let's actually delete this last screen here. I've always disliked these. Oh, there's one other thing that I'll do here just for completeness sake. I'm going to make all of these fields required. That's always a good idea. So required. They're going to have to provide us a company, even if it's their name. Looks good. Okay, got my form now, popping it open right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'll go and select this. I'll say lead magnet generator example build. Example build is just how I tell myself what is for YouTube and what's for my actual work. Got an OK there, and then we're going to go list the responses here on the back end. So I'm going to go grab the left-click Typeform, and then the form ID is going to be the same as the other one. Lead magnet generator. Wonderful. We're only going to grab one. We're going to scroll all the way down here, and then what we're going to do is just fill in these variables. The topic is going to be, what do you want the topic of your lead magnet to be? Let's actually just copy all of this so I have it after. That way I don't have to refill. Like I don't actually have to think when I fill out the form later. I'm just going to use the same example. And then the summary is going to be provide a brief summary of your finished piece. And then the company name is going to be over here. Oh, actually we can't get the company name yet. That's annoying. We need to fill out the form first once. Okay. I'm going to set up a filter, and I'll say block, and then I'll do x equals y, same thing as last time. And then I'm going to run this. I'm actually going to fill out this form, and I'm just going to use everything here. We'll say YouTube marketing is really effective. Summary, pound for pound, YouTube is anywhere as 5 to 10 times effective. Lovely. And then Nick, send it to my email here, and then my company name is 1second copy. They are selling themselves on the back of my work. That's annoying. And it looks like there's some issue here. Cannot initialize the scenario because the reason cannot read properties of undefined reading account. Oh, well, that sucks. I don't think I'm not sending this to anybody, so yeah, that makes sense. I guess we'll just have to unlink this then. And I've already filled out this form, so we'll just use this. Verify that this was indeed gotten. Cool, we got the variables. Let's see if we can access them now. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Okay, great, we can. The company name is just this one right here, 1second copy. And then the email that we're going to be using, that we're going to be sending this to, let me try re-linking this. Sometimes that makes it work. No. So you see how over here, if we go back to the GPT module, we can access it from here, but we can't access it from there. That's because there was an issue on the module when we ran it. Namely, there was just nobody in the to field. And if you're trying to run an email module, like a send email module without anybody in the to field, it'll just cancel out on you. But because of that, the data, I guess, just never had a chance to reach the end of this flow. And so we can't access it there, but we can access it here. So what I'm going to do is I want the email. So I'm just going to select it here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go over here, and then I'll paste it in. And you'll see that it's white again, but that's just because this module does not have access to that yet. We'll say the title. I guess we should do first name too. Yeah, let's do first name. So I'm going to grab their first name, and then I'm going to say, hey, first name, your lead magnet is here. So we'll go, your lead magnet is ready. Then we'll say, hi, blank. And then I'm going to use BR. Those are email tags that just add a couple of new lines. Then I'll say, your lead magnet titled. And then I'm going to grab the, oh, never mind, I have the title here. And then I'm going to say, thanks I don't know, let's just pretend it's my company left click that's providing it. That looks nice. And there's one more thing that we have to do that I'm just realizing now. Like, we need to actually send them the lead magnet. What I've been doing so far is sort of hacky. I've been grabbing the document ID of the generated lead magnets directly from the Google Slide module. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go over to Google Drive, because you have to use Google Drive for this. And then I'm going to go create a share link, get a share link for a file or folder. So sort of annoying that you have to two-step it like this, but just part of working with this. And then what you do is when it asks for file ID, just feed in the presentation ID. Like if you're using Google Sheets for this, it's going to ask for the sheet ID, I believe. If you're using Google Docs, it's going to be like the doc ID. But none of that stuff matters. Just use the whatever the thing is that prefaces the word ID is sufficient. I'm going to say find it here, and then I'm going to go and add myself just a little bit of HTML here. You don't need to be an HTML pro for this. We're just going to be using share link. Stick that in the Ahref. That's just like a clickable link in the email. All right, looks good. We're going to remove this block. And, I'm just going to use the pre-created response here as opposed to like watch the response back there. We're just going to give this a run, see whether or not this works as a test. My intuition is that everything should be pretty hunky-dory at this point. We're using a smarter model. It's generated all of the headings pretty reasonably. We have now generated the share link, which was an issue. We have the email address, even though it's inaccessible in the email module because we screwed up the very first time with the to field. Should be fine now because we copied over the same variable ID and all that stuff from the modules where it was accessible. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting a nice, beautiful, custom-generated lead magnet in my inbox. As a fellow digital marketing company, these are quite valuable. I think my screen is changing colors here because I have a like an automation set up to change my screen color at 6:18 p.m. So if things get very red all of a sudden, that's why. I normally counteract that by recording a little bit later. Okay, this looks good. We generated the share link. Okay, we got the email. So why don't I jump in and see my email address here? Nice, that looks pretty sexy. I like how it's down here too. However, the fact that there's like a title here is kind of weird. Okay, yeah, no, that looks good. Oh, wonderful. How beautiful. I can even click through it right here. Oh, look at those auto. Oh, man, that's gorgeous. Oh, man. Oh, how could we? The paragraphs are just a little bit too long. Tisk, tisk. But man, how cool was everything else? With those little animations coming down. Oof. It's got to be the sexiest thing I've ever seen. Imagine sending that to somebody, like less than 5 minutes after they request it. Would be absolutely incredible. Okay, I'm not going to go through and then re-edit the titles and re-edit the training and stuff like that. I think it's clear at this point that you can tweak it a fair amount, but obviously there are marginal and diminishing returns after a while. What I would do if I were you at this point is, take the blueprint that I'm going to be providing you and then just copy all of the paragraphs and then just make them a little bit shorter, maybe like 10 or 15% shorter. And then the model will just pick up on that and, it'll sort of like latently write shorter paragraphs from there on out. I would also space these out just a little bit more, just in case there are 2 lines like there are here. Maybe, I don't know, the monitor analytics. Yeah, maybe the second line here, you just go like 30 or 40 pixels down. So just in case, even if there is a paragraph that's a little bit longer, then that's okay. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think that at the end of it, this is quite attractive, and you can make this as long or as comprehensive as you want. Totally up to you. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to save this blueprint, and then I'll make this accessible to everybody that's watched this video and that might want to create something like this for themselves. Keep in mind, you are going to need a Typeform that you're going to have to connect to. You're going to need your own GPT-4 credentials, obviously, and then you're going to need your own Google Slides template. But I had a lot of fun building it, and I'm sure you will too. Awesome. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions about the build that I did specifically in this video, feel free to reach out. Leave me a comment down below, and I will answer them. I'm getting a lot better at keeping up to date on the comments, the flood that I've been receiving recently. If you guys want any videos on topics similar to this, then please let me know down below. I've been sourcing comment ideas directly from my viewers over the course of the last couple of weeks, and it's actually really helped me because One, I get to sort of have my finger on the pulse of what you guys enjoy building and the sorts of things that are relevant in the community today. But two, I also get to interact directly with the people that I think have also been rewarding me in many ways, both in terms of ad revenue and just putting a fat smile on my face every time I see one of your amazing comments. So if you guys have been wondering on how to build System X or System Y, just drop that comment down below, and there's a pretty reasonable chance that I'll build your system sometime in the next month or so. Anyway, do all that fun YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, what am I missing? Send me gold bars to my address, and I will catch you all in the next video. Thanks so much, bye-bye.